Okay, everyone, welcome to the Live Well, Love Strong podcast. This morning, I have a really special guest that I'm excited to share with you. Her name is Rachel, and she is mama to 4-year-old Moira. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about something called cortical vision impairment. And so, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your journey into what we call CVI, cortical vision impairment world?
Oh my goodness. That's a big one. And good morning, everybody. So my name's Rachel, as she just said. I've got a little one, Moira, who's 4. Quickly found out that she had CVI. So you can call it cortical visual impairment or cerebral visual impairment. Different places call it different things. So if you hear either of those, they're interchangeable. It means the same thing, and it's shortened for CVI. So I'll say CVI throughout the rest of the podcast. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And before you go any further, can you tell me a little bit about what CVI is? So cortical vision impairment or cerebral vision impairment. What exactly does that mean for our community, for our
sure,
kids?
sure. So CVI is a brain-based visual impairment. So that's going to be different than anything else that you guys hear about in terms of if they've got septo-optic dysplasia or nystagmus or strabismus or something like that. Those have to do with the actual function of the eyes. And CVI is brain-based. So that can be caused by if you had damage to the visual processing centers of your brain, or if they developed, in a way that they weren't fully developed, right? So, for instance, my daughter has agenesis of the corpus callosum, which kind of bridges the two sides of the brain together. And so that's missing, is what that means. And so things didn't quite form as well. She also had a little bit of apraxia, and and so that way she kind of had some damage to those visual processing centers of the brain. And it's not always super obvious at first because it is brain based. It varies depending on what the circumstances are, and and so you don't notice right away with a lot of kids.
Yeah. Okay. So Mary Elizabeth has cortical vision impairment as well. She also has strabismus. She has agenesis of the corpus callosum. So we have some of the same things going on. And
Yeah.
in the beginning, well, she also was cortically blind. So I'll put that out there. So we have some other stuff that we were dealing with, but we did stem cells and hyperbaric oxygen and all sorts of things. And so we got some movement and some activity in the occipital lobe where you're processing everything. And then we were still having what I thought were vision issues. And so it turned out to be CVI. So, like, what are some of the things that kids do or babies do in the beginning that would give you a clue that, like, hey, they might have cortical vision impairment or they might have something going on with that area of the brain that processes?
That's a great question. So if you're seeing something when they're a baby, they're probably more on the affected side. So they're going to be like what's considered to be phase 1, phase 2 is when you're going to notice it at a young age. And what you'll see is so things like with Moira, what we noticed was she wasn't ever looking at us in the eyes. It always looked like she was looking past us.
Yeah.
She wouldn't track anything, not a toy, not a person, not a hand, nothing. She wouldn't reach for toys. Like, what baby doesn't reach for a toy? You're like, it had no excitement when there was a toy in front of her. Um, and one day my husband came to me, he's like, I think she's blind. Like, I don't think that she can see. Like, there's something up. But then there were other days that it felt like she could see a little something. And we were like, that is so bizarre. And we kept watching it. And so you'll see those moments of like, maybe they're looking past you. Maybe you can tell that they're looking towards something, but you can tell that they're focused on from the ears. So like with Moira, it's like, hey, I've got this thing over to my right and you're shaking it and it's like she's hearing it and her eyes go in the direction, but she doesn't quite make contact with it. And
She's
that was
trying to find it. Yeah. And
Mhm.
she's using her other senses as a help or an adaptation. Yeah.
Right.
One
That's
of the
right.
things Mary Elizabeth used to do is if and when she would reach for a toy, she would not be looking at the same time. And so
Yes.
that was another thing that I noticed with Mary Elizabeth is there's a lot of like when they do go to make the move to grab the toy, um, they're not looking as well because it's too much for the brain to do at the same time is what I.
That's Yeah, so that's one of the 10 characteristics, which is the difficulty with visual guided reach. So basically, what that means is they can't use their vision and their touch senses at the same time. So what you'll see them maybe look in the direction of a toy or listen in the direction of a toy, kind of get their bearings on it, and then they will turn their head away, and then they'll take their hand and they'll try to swat to where they thought they saw it.
Yeah.
And that is super common.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a big one for us that we saw.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we talked a little bit about some of the things that you see when your child is little, either a baby and or toddler, elementary school age, and things that parents can kind of look for.
Mhm.
But what do they do once they start having those thoughts of like or those concerns? How does someone go about getting a CVI diagnosis, or what's the process for trying to figure this out for our babies?
That's a great question. So the main thing is if they're under the age of 3, in order to see an ophthalmologist or optometrist, you have to have a referral from the PCP. So if you're suspecting something doesn't feel right, they're doing one of the things that we talked about, there's a few others. Um, if they're doing one of those things, go to your PCP, get a referral to go to the eye doctor. It can be optometrist or ophthalmologist. I typically go for one that specializes in low vision.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, because we talk a lot about for parents here on the podcast, like, we have to learn a lot of information in a very short amount of time. So Rachel is 4 years in, and does not want to be the expert of CVI, but she knows a lot more than most of us, y'all. And so what we talk about is like all doctors are not created equal either, and so you can waste a lot of time with the wrong people. And so you're going to your PCP, you're asking for a pediatric ophthalmologist, someone who specializes in, what did you say?
Low vision.
Low vision. Okay, guys. Or an interventionalist or interventional, right? Am I saying that right? An
Yep.
interventionist ophthalmologist as well. So that's,
Yeah.
should edit that.
That that's key. So I will tell you quickly what happened to us and then how you can do it better.
Yeah. Okay, that's perfect.
Because
That's what I'm
I
trying to do.
think it's really helpful to know because I had never heard of CVI in my life before
Right.
this.
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" So we went through to an ophthalmologist after telling our PCP, like, "There's something weird." So she sends us over and they do their normal exam, and it wasn't a low vision ophthalmologist, just a pediatric one. And so they do this thing, they end up handing me a piece of paper at the end, and they're like, yeah, she's got some vision loss, maybe some nearsighted, take this piece of paper and go contact your local ECI, which is early childhood intervention program.
Yep.
So we are in Williamson County in Texas. And so we contacted Bluebonnet Trails, which is our ECI program here, said, we got this paper. Can we get services? They offer PT, OT, and then vision services. They may offer some other stuff. I don't remember. Moira was already getting PT, OT, speech and feeding outside of that. So we were really focused on the vision stuff. It took them 6 months to finally get an evaluation and to get somebody to come out 2 months later after the
Yeah.
6 months. So 8
Right.
months in, after
Yeah.
I got this piece of paper, who just said, "Yeah, there's some vision loss." They come out, they send out a TVI, which is teacher of the visually impaired, and an O&M, which is an orientation and mobility specialist. Those are two that every child will get assigned to them if they have a visual impairment. They go hand in hand together. So if they're under 3, they come out to the house and they will service your child at your house.
Mhm.
Um, if they're over 3, you're gonna go to your, school district, and they will do that, because in Texas now all states are a little bit different. Some are independently contracted, but in Texas, they are, contracted through the school district.
Right.
So the ECI program hooks them up, they come out and they're setting up and they're started doing some evaluations, and they look at each other and they go, "CVI?" And they go, "Yeah." And I go, "What's that?" And they go, "Well, it was on your paper." And I go, "What do you mean? What paper?" And they're like, "The paper that you turned in." And I was like, I go back and I find that paper, and at the very bottom, there was a tiny little line that said possible CVI.
Possible CVI. Yeah.
And that doctor never said a word to me about CVI. Didn't
Right.
say, "Hey, you guys might wanna look into this," I wasted 8 months, and then
Yeah.
once I started diving in and learning what it was, I was angry.
Yeah, no, totally right. Because it matters in the beginning when they're younger and their brain is developing specifically for vision to do the things that you would do for a kid with CVI. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I had a similar experience. Like I said, our story was a little wacky where Mary Elizabeth was diagnosed cortically blind by, we went to 3 different pediatric ophthalmologists because I was like, please say it ain't so. Like, no.
Yeah,
And so it wasn't until we well, I did some research and found CVI as a possible diagnosis, and found Dr. Roman Lansky, which we'll talk about her later, and brought my baby to her. And she did the exam and she was like, oh my gosh, yes, she's a level 1, which is, the most severe. But she could move all the way up to this, which I really loved. And so I want to talk about like the
yeah.
gains and the therapies that we can do for cortical vision impairment that gives the kids a better shot at seeing things more appropriately for them. So
Really quickly, Sarah, I want to just touch on the fact that, like, a ophthalmologist or optometrist will give a diagnosis of CVI, but they cannot assess their CVI. So
thank you.
that
Yeah.
has to be done by a TVI, a teacher of the visually impaired, and they usually do what's called the CVI range assessment, which was created by Dr. Roman.
Okay, so let's talk about her really quickly and then we're going to talk about the assessment. The leader of the field in cortical vision impairment for our kids here in the US, and I want to say worldwide as well, is who? Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Dr. Christine Roman Lansky. She is incredible. And I will say, I just came from her Innovations in CVI conference in Pittsburgh last week, which was phenomenal. And they actually presented data on her CVI range assessment showing how accurate it is and how
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, it blew my mind. It's absolutely incredible what she's been able to accomplish, and what her tireless energy to, like, push forward information in this field and help as many kids as she can. And she's one of the nicest people.
Yeah, we'll give that shout out. Like when we went, we were in the beginning of, we were less than 2 years in with Mary Elizabeth, and there were a lot of question marks for everything for her. But the vision thing was the most concerning for me as a mom, and I'm not quite sure why. It's like, oh, she'll never walk or talk, but I was like very worried about her sight. and and she was the most compassionate, kind, loving, caring doctor. Even though we were getting, which wasn't like we weren't getting great news, you know what I mean? But she delivered it in a way that made it gave me a plan
Oh,
of action. It gave me hope. It gave me things that I can do. And as a mom, and in the beginning, that's what you want. That's what you need in order to make it, I think, is like you need a plan of action and you
yeah.
need to start doing for your kid so that it feels like, and I'm just talking about the feeling part of it. So it feels like you're moving forward. And she gave those to us in such a lovely way. and we laughed and had jokes. And I mean, yeah, it was a really good experience.
It is kind of jarring when you go into a situation like that where you're not receiving the best of news, but yet you walk away feeling somehow things are not all bad. And you're like, "But I have hope, and I have a plan of action, and I have somebody who's telling me, who's worked in this field for 40 years, who's telling me things can change." And what I do wanna say to your audience is that CVI is the number 1 cause of blindness in the United States. So,
Wow.
data shows 1 in 30 children in the public school system have CVI. Majority of them going undiagnosed until later.
Wow. I didn't know that, Rachel.
Huge number. If
Yeah.
you think about it, autism is 1 in 33.
Right.
Put
Yeah.
that in perspective and think about how that hits the headlines all the time, but CVI is never talked about. People don't know about it. And so, like, I really wanna talk about it. I want everybody to know about it because when you start making those
Well,
accommodations for your kid and you start seeing their excitement and their, joy when they find something and they see something. You talked about, being worried about her sight more than anything else, and I think what really hits home for me when I think about that, and one thing that we talked about, we're not sure if she'll, walk or talk or eat on her own either. But the
right.
thing was that if they can't do those things already, when they don't have if they can't use any of their vision that they do have, right? Where
Mhm.
is their motivation to come from to work on
Right.
other things?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, and how can they participate? For me, it was like if she can't see, like how can she be part of our world with all of the other comorbidities going on?
Yes.
So it was like very important to me that I try to get her access to some vision as much as she could possibly, as her brain could could see is was my goal when she was little. And so we did the assessment with Dr. Roman Lansky. Can you tell me a little bit about that assessment that you do? And then that's where you get like the information about your kid, but then you can come up with a plan of action for them.
Yeah. So with us, we have seen Dr. Roman Lancy with virtually. So
Mhm.
we've done the range assessment with her virtually. We've done it with her TBI and O&M a couple of times. And it's really the thing that I really love about it is because they're only seeing them for a small amount of time. And as we've kind of briefly talked about earlier, is that it changes. It is not a linear progress when it comes to CVI. And so some days what I call good CVI days, and some days not so good CVI days, right? And some days are really bad CVI days where it's
Yeah.
like my daughter looks like she is fully blind, can't see a darn thing. And you know that they're kind of going into what's called like a CVI meltdown, and like the whole thing is just shut off.
Yeah.
So you don't know when they come in that day what they're going to see. They
Right.
may, depending on what their day is going to be. And I love the fact that Dr. Roman really takes that into consideration when she was designing this, is that it's not just like a one and done thing. It's not like, hey, you came in, you got an x ray, your leg is broken. It's totally different than something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so they do what's called like a parent interview, and they do several different assessments, like watching them, different moments in different areas. They'll try different books, different reading, giving plenty of time for processing time. That is a big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the processing time is something that I think is the hardest for people to understand
Mhm.
because you so badly want your child to reach and grab the thing or hit the thing or do the thing, and they need extra time, and people tend to get impatient.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
Whether it's
When
parent, family members, therapists, teachers, they're like, "Come on, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it." And you're like, just say it one
Right.
time.
And then the noise on the outside is also creating things in their brain, which slows the processing down even more. I've learned that. We do a type of therapy called MNRI, Muscatova Neurosensory Motor Reflex Integration. I haven't had anybody on yet for MNRI, and that's coming soon. But Dr. Muscatova told me when Mary Elizabeth was really little to give her 7 seconds or 14 seconds. She was like, she can't do it right away. So you're going to give her 7 quietly, like with no outside stimulus. So you're
Yep.
gonna say the command or ask what you want and then give 7 seconds. And if that doesn't work, you say the command and then give 14 seconds. And people don't realize how long that is. That's a long time. And for us, especially mamas who are going, multitasking, doing all the things at once, it feels like, oh my God, we're just sitting here doing nothing. But what I noticed with Mary Elizabeth is that she does need about 7 seconds.
Yep.
Because if not, then yeah, then I have to start over and and so then we're rating 7 more seconds. So I'm
That's
glad
right.
that you said that. The processing time for their brain to organize, to get the motor pattern ready and then to actually physically execute it takes a lot longer for our kiddos. And so wow, I'm
Yeah.
glad that you said that. Okay.
Yeah. It's definitely a biggie for sure. Yeah. For all of the kids with CVI. That's just a in general thing for all kids with CVI. Whether you're phase 1 or phase 3, just depends on how long.
Yeah. Okay. So you're doing the assessment. They do a parent intake. They're observing the kid. The assessment is fluid, which means it can change, it can improve, it can get worse if they're having a bad CVI day.
Yeah.
We're giving the child a lot of extra time to organize and to do what they need to do or to show us what they can see.
Yeah.
What else?
So, and then they'll basically compile all of the scores that they've got from the various different things and add it up. And then basically they'll assign a score. So it might be 4.5, right? But then there's 3 phases. So 4.5 will fall kind of in the middle of phase 2. And the
Mhm.
highest score is a 9, really, and the lowest score is like a 0. There's 0.5 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so really you're looking at the 3 phases. And I think I I'm not certain on this, but I think kind of the goal of having assigning a phase along with the numbers is it gives you a broad picture of maybe what that phase you can have some accommodations for. I
Yeah.
will preface that with every child is different, of course. And if a kid is at the very beginning of phase 2 and the very end of phase 2, it's very different. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very broad range. Those scores are so important to know. Personally, I think it's easier to talk about phases because it's better for other people to understand. But as a parent who's looking at accommodations, the
Mhm.
actual score will get you kind of closer. And then just observation of your own child, and it's going to change all the time, and it might say, hey, they suggested to do this, but then you notice in your day to day maybe one of those things isn't working anymore and you need to change it, maybe because their vision has improved, maybe it's just a bad day, like whatever it is. But you have to try to be just as observational as possible every day and just make those accommodations.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so when once we get our score and then the phase or the range that our kiddo is in, then we have these modifications or adaptations we can do to their environment visually to try to
Yep.
stimulate their vision. And so what that looks like is what, Rachel? What does that look like?
Um, so it depends on where they're at, obviously, but you want to, there's a biggies. So the biggest things, in my opinion, are you're looking at sound, temperature, light, and clutter.
Hmm.
Those are big ones. So if a space is too cluttered, and listen, we all have a lot of stuff. And if you're a medical parent, you don't have a lot of time to clean all your stuff and organize all your stuff. So it can get out of control, and the space is got a lot going on. Uh,
Right.
and we all have that. Like, we're human, we have lives. The biggest, easiest thing that you can do if you can't declutter a space, especially their room or a space that they sit in often, that they're looking at often, go to one of the fabric stores or whatever, have them cut off some black fabric. You don't even have to buy an actual blanket, just cut off some black fabric and throw it over it. If
Yeah.
you do that, it literally disappears for them and they don't see it anymore. And having that will be huge. So that, and then sound. So overstimulation of all the senses is a problem. Sound is a huge one. So there's lots of, stories that I've heard from some kids where if they're at school and they're walking down the hallway and it's like everybody's walking out at the end of the day, their whole viewpoint gets pixelated. And it's
Yeah.
hard for them to use their vision because there's just too much auditory stuff going on and it's overwhelming their brain and their brain can no longer focus on the vision. Um, if they're like Moira at school, when I was gone in Pittsburgh at the conference, they had some kid pulled the fire alarm.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that went on for a while. So she ended up having a CVI meltdown that day and literally cried for a couple of hours after that. And so what we do is we custom built a little CVI den for her under her bed. And so every day when she comes home from therapy, from school, she goes in there. That's her space that never changes. It's got the same stuff in it. It's quiet, it's calm, it's her space. If she wants to play music in there, there's stuff for her to do it. And it's always on and it won't go on until she hits the button. If she wants to just sit there and zone out and stare at the ceiling of it, she does that. And it's her choice.
Yeah.
Uh, so sound is a huge one. Temperature. So temperature changes depending on the kiddo. Um, they if they get overheated or like too cold, like
Mhm.
if they are having a hard time regulating those temperatures, your body is working extra hard, which your brain is helping do that, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
then it again shuts that off. If my daughter gets too hot, she will vomit and vision goes bye-bye.
Yeah.
Um, and then what was the other one I said?
Light, temperature, clutter, sound.
Okay. So light. Um, if your child goes to therapy, which in our community probably does,
Right.
I would recommend just having them turn out the lights in the room. So we go to Napa Center here in Austin. They're really great about it. We go into a private room, we can turn out the lights. If we're not in a private room and we're open in the floor, we ask everybody else if they're okay with it, turn out the lights, just calm the space down because a lot of kiddos, especially are in the earlier phases, they will do what's called light gazing. And that's where all their attention is going to go. They're going to stare at that and you're going to be like, oh, look, they're looking at the light. Yay, they're looking at something. No, no, no. That's not what that means. It's literally the only thing that they can
They're
see.
like caught in a loop. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed that. So one of the things, so we're talking basically about things that would distract our kids from focusing on
That's right.
seeing, on their vision. And I think that that is something that all of our kids have to deal with all of the different sensory inputs coming in at any given time. And so that is a great easy win for parents in the beginning when you're trying to figure it out is turn off the lights, turn off the sound, sit for a minute in quiet and in stillness, and then kind of figure out where you need to go next or what your child needs from that. Because parents, we talk about behavior stuff, right? Like, they're crying, they're hollering, they're upset, they're biting themselves, they're hitting, whatever it is, right? Behavior's communication, and a lot of times that's overstimulation, or at least in my experience with Mary Elizabeth. It just means she's had too much and we need to turn it all off and give her like central nervous system a second to start over, reboot, breathe, and calm down. And I will actually hear her do that sigh. And then I know, okay, we're back to base, like we're back to baseline again. But that's a
That's
win.
right.
Yeah.
You wanna have the behavior thing, a lot of kids, so even Dr. Roman will talk about this a lot in terms of behavior. She said, especially if they're in the later phases, like phase 3, kids get misdiagnosed, either with
Right.
autism, ADHD, whatever, because they're having behavioral issues when really it's a CVI
Yep.
issue,
Yep.
and they are overstimulated.
Yep.
And so you think about it, even Helen Keller had that. Like her family wanted and her doctors wanted her to be put away in an institution because she was biting and hitting and throwing things. And her mother was at least had the fortitude to know, like, hey, no, there's a person in
Right.
there.
She's trying to communicate something. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like how best do you do that? And the other thing that I wanted to touch on in terms of helping them kind of be able to focus is postural support. So one thing you don't want to do, especially if your kiddo isn't ambulatory and they're not moving around, maybe they don't have great head control, you want to make sure that they have, if you are working on vision and that is a goal that you're working on in that moment, don't give them any other tasks. It's like you don't want them to be focused on trying to hold their core up and hold their head up and balance and do all this other stuff and work on their vision. That's just too much to ask. So focus on one or the other in those moments.
Yeah.
um, I just wanted to touch on that before I forgot about
Yeah,
it.
no, that's great. And I think as parents, we want them to do it all at the same time because there's so many different goals we're trying to work on. And it's like there's not enough time in the day to do all the therapies that you need to do. But don't do it, guys. Because then you don't get any learning in, and so you have to pick one. You have to set up a schedule, you have to organize yourself. And then, we're working on vision this morning. We're not working on trying to hold her head up and look at the same time. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a biggie. It's a
Good.
biggie. One
Okay.
that a lot of folks don't think seem to consider, especially like in the school setting. Sometimes they'll be like, "Oh yeah, let's work on sitting up and looking." I'm like, "Let's pick one."
Yeah, no, it's so good. And it's like, it's with the best of intentions, right? But
Oh
like
yeah,
we were to think about if we're at the gym working out and we're lifting this big heavy weight, and then also you want us to drink water at the same time, or you want us to like give
walk
some,
on the treadmill.
highly intelligent, whatever,
Yep.
you can. It just doesn't make sense. And that's what we're asking of our kids when we're asking that. So we have to just kind of change the way that we think about what they're doing and, what they're capable or what their capacity is, and give them the space and the time to work on each thing separately. Yeah. I love that. I didn't think we were going to say that this morning, but that's like a huge win because you don't learn that until later on as a parent unless you're really observing, like Rachel was saying earlier.
Yeah.
And so that's great information. Okay. So,
First of that could be true too, just FYI. If you're working on PT and say you're at the therapy clinic and that's your focus, then do that. And if you need to try to get their visual attention to get their head up, you can, but that your goal isn't the vision at that moment. Your
right.
goal
Yeah,
is
totally.
this.
Yes. I like
So
that.
say like you still can do other things. You just have to make sure if they're capable in that moment. And then also one other thing really quickly is the behavioral stuff in terms of when you're going to therapy and you're going to school, if you can help reduce some of the noise, the vision, the lights, the da 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 da, it will help because I've seen many kids go into therapy and they're grumpy, they're not happy, they're crying, and then they walk into the newly designed CVI room at Napa Center, Austin, and all of a sudden they just calm down. So
Love
those
it.
things make a difference.
Shout out to Napa Center. Yeah.
Love
It's
'em.
a great place for our kids. Okay. Okay. So when you set up a CVI room, or when you're setting up an environment that is encouraging vision and for kids with CVI, what does it look like? What do you include in it? Mary Elizabeth's ABA school did this for us a while back. We had a mom who was really into CVI and they set up the environment. But I want you to kind of explain, like, how would someone go about doing that for their kid? Obviously, the black sheet at home to declutter, lower lights, less noise, the temperature is right. But are there any other things that are really important in the beginning? And I know there's a wide phase, but
Yeah, definitely. So it depends on what you want to be doing at the moment. So if your goal is to help them have what I like to call a vision and brain break,
mhm.
is you want to set up like we talked about. We built a little den for my daughter. That was that's the bigger version of. She originally just had her little play gym with a black cloth over it and some little twinkle lights in there. And then she graduated her TVI and O&M, made what's called a little room. And you guys can YouTube that. It'll show you how to build one out of PVC pipe.
Yep.
You want to keep all the same things in there. So if you got a little one, especially under the age of 3, get them a little room. It's really easy to make, or ask their TVI. They may already have one that they could share with you. You keep all the same things in there until they start learning them and start actually using them and engaging with them, looking at them, trying to touch them. And then you can swap out one of the things and put something else. Because what is really common with kids with CVI is something that is novel, which is brand new, is harder for them to engage with and see than something that they're familiar with. So it's really building that familiarity and that comfortability in their own space and learning that space and then learning something and then figuring out where their vision is best, because kiddos with CVI also have what's called visual field loss. So they need to find their right position in order to
Yeah.
literally find that. So a lot of them will use their peripheral vision.
Yep.
What I realized is my daughter does that with her AAC device, because I tried to use it and I was like, nothing is going off. It's not finding my eyes. And I was like, then I looked below and then it caught it. And I was like, whoa, that is wild.
Totally. Mary Elizabeth will turn her head to the side a little bit and then kind of like side eye something. And I've noticed that that's when she's focusing and really trying to see something, that's what she's doing. And I feel like Dr. Roman Lansky told me this a while back, but I want you to confirm it or deny it. She said that imagine looking through Swiss cheese, that's kind of what our kids are trying to do. So there's like these blocks and then there are these tiny holes of like access. And so they're trying to like move their head around to get that right spot so that they can see. And like you were saying, you don't want to change things up. You don't want new novel things. You don't want a ton of variation and variability, because they are trying to make a map in their brain of that object. And if you're
Yeah.
constantly switching it, then they haven't finished that map. And so they might need, days, weeks, months to like map out whatever that toy is. And then now they know what it looks like. And now they know what it looks like when they catch it on the edge of their periphery, or, because we do that and we take for granted, like I can see out the edge of my eye right now. And, that's going to take Mary Elizabeth a long time to be able to do that. And so if I'm switching things up constantly for her, she's not going to get any of it, And so I like that you said that, like slow and steady, and like continue to give them the same thing so that they can make a map of it.
Yeah. And when you do present something new, just do one thing at a time. We don't want to put 5 toys in front of them that are all brand new. That would be too hard. And then the other thing that you can do accommodation wise, if the goal isn't like, you just want them to chill and have their vision and brain break, and your goal is I want them actively learning, like we want to work on
Right.
something,
Yeah.
then you want to have them seated in a supportive chair that's going to protect them. And so they don't have to work hard to hold themselves up if that's what your kid needs. The space needs to be clean and clear. It really does. And if you can't do it, use that black cloth trick.
Right.
Trust me, I do it all the time. I
Yeah.
literally have one hanging over her bed. So that's like always a black wall for us to face.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a black blanket that holds over the edge of her bed. And so always have that. If you are working on something, you can also get a big, giant black trifold. Uh,
Yeah, I've done that, and then you put stuff on it. I mean, we've done everything that you're talking about. So yes.
Yeah. So just make sure the space is as clear and clean as possible, because any clutter is going to really distract from their visual learning, especially if you don't know their preferred visual fields. Because you might have something, over to the right that is distracting to them, but you think they're looking forward, but that's not where their focus is. So, really having that kind of, 180 view in front of them, all pretty cleared out, is the best thing to do.
Yeah, I love that. Now, I just want to say something really quickly because you brought it up. And I will get this man on the podcast, but there's a ophthalmologist named Dr. Tyshan.
Hmm.
He's in St. Louis Children's, and he does, I guess it's a brain test on our kiddos, but we flew there when Mary Elizabeth was a little younger, and he has like this room with a big movie screen, kind of what it looks like, and then he has cameras looking at their eyes, and then we also have like it looks like an EEG, but it's measuring the activity in the occipital lobe, and then he'll have like an apple come down the screen. And then he'll have like an apple come from the right top to the left, and it watches the eyes track up and down, left and right. And so then he gives you a really good understanding of what you were talking about, of what are those blind spots, what are the areas that she can see, and what are the areas that she can't, where does she lose it if she's going from top high left to bottom right. Mary Elizabeth has a really hard time with that, but she can go top right to bottom left, like. And so it's all brain stuff, and it gave us a better understanding of like where to put stuff so that she would see it, and then where to put things to make it more challenging, like a highly favorable visual, where do we put it to try to
Yeah.
get that part of the brain working and mapped out. So just shout out to Dr. Tyshin at St. Louis Children's. I highly recommend going there and doing the testing with him. He also does some other stuff with lenses and implantation, and if nearsighted and farsightedness and strabismus. So he's one of my favorites in the country for our kids. So
To know, I have to check him out.
yeah, yeah, and actually, I think Dr. Roman Lansky referred us to him, but we kind of worked with her, set up our world the way you were talking about, and then we went to see Dr. Tyshin, and then we, have kind of been going ever since. So I love that. Okay, so we were talking about setting up the visual environment. I want to talk a little bit about some resources that can help, like books, things that you can order. I know that you have started some of that, so I want to kind of talk a little bit about, what you're trying to do to make things that we can buy or
Yeah.
order, that we're not having to recreate the wheel, like Rachel has done it. So can we talk a little bit about some of the things that you're creating for Moira and the rest of our community?
I'd love to. One thing that I think all of us medical parents will get from time to time is you have to make this, you have to make this, you have to make this. And you're like, at what point do you think in my day I have time to do that?
Yeah,
Is, you know, I, and I would sit there and I would look at all of the other parents that go to therapy, and everybody looks exhausted,
yeah,
right? And they're like, "When do I don't have" 1, you may not have the skill set. 2,
right,
you may not have the funds or the access. You may
right.
not have the want, the desire to do it. You're like,
You
"I am"
may not have the capacity. I mean, like,
ex
let's be
mental
honest.
capacity. Yeah, exactly. You're like, "I am so stretched thin. I just wanna zone out and think about nothing for the next 50 minutes while my child is in this
In
session."
therapy,
And
right?
that's okay. We all need that sometimes. I've been there.
Yeah,
Um, but what I knew is so I come from a creative background. I've always been a creative person. Did a bunch of arts and crafts growing up. I went to school for acting. I'm an artist as well. So is my husband. And so anything like creative wise, like I am into. Like sign me up, let's do it. Let's try it, whatever. So I was at Napa Center one day watching a therapist, an OT, work with a kid on coloring. So they're working on their fine motor skills. And I was sitting there and I was like, is that something my daughter is ever going to be able to do? Like, can kids with CVI color? Like, can they see that?
yeah,
Like, because I don't like the way I'm understanding this, it doesn't feel like that would be accessible to them. And
right.
so I went and I asked all the therapists and I asked for TBI and O&M, and everybody's like, no, kids with CBI don't color. And I was like, well, they deserve to color.
We should be able to color,
Like,
right?
I love coloring when I was a kid, and I was like, they deserve it. They deserve it. They work so hard, these kids do. They deserve to have some fun.
Yeah.
So then I told her TV and I and O&M, I said, I think I'm gonna create a coloring book. And they go, really? And I go, yeah. And they came back the next week and I said, made my first one. And they go, what? And I go, yeah, already published it. And they're like, you're insane. So I will show you. I will talk about them too because we're obviously on audio as
Yeah,
well.
no, I love this, y'all. And Rachel, I didn't know that you were creative and that was your background, but I knew it already from just talking to you guys. Rachel and I just met this morning, so I knew that. Oh my God, love it. Okay.
So things like this is like if you guys are watching it, then you can see what I'm showing. If you're not, I'm going to show you. It's a Christmas coloring book. This is one of the very first ones that I did. So it's got black pages. Everything is outlined in red, and then
Love
the
it.
center where you color is white.
Love it.
Now, the really special thing about this is that the pages are one-sided,
Yep.
so it's black on the other side. You can rip it off and put it on a light box. If your kiddo needs backlit, which a lot of kids do with
That's
CVI,
very cool, Rachel. That's very cool. Yeah.
do. So this is the first of its kind. Nobody else does this, just me, unless they're trying to copy me now, which can
I
happen.
love it. And that's a great present for like grandparents and aunts and uncles and people to get for the kid in your life who has focal vision impairment. Sometimes I get a lot of questions of like, what do we get them? What do we get them? What do we get them? There's only so many light up toys that sing and dance that we can get. And it's a struggle. But that's a great gift. Love it.
It's
Love it, love
it's
it.
a fun one, and so I took it to Napa one day, and they used it with this little girl who the mom was like, she hates coloring, has never done it. They took her back, they brought her back out, and the therapist was holding 2 pages that she colored during that session, and the mom's jaw just dropped open, and they are amazing. They come back again and again because her daughter loves these books. We've got one that has, like, shapes in it, so this one's like when you have shapes, you build up to it. And so you can build up to complexity. So now you're outlining, there's multiple ones on a page, and then you're working on finding the same ones on a page. So
Love
there
it.
are ones that kind of build
Yeah.
um, to get going further. I also have ones that are alphabets.
Oh my
Uh,
God, I love that. So y'all, for the new mamas, I made all of those by hand myself when Mary Elizabeth was little with the little cards with the animal and the wording on it, the black and white. Then we added red and yellow. And so this,
a lot. There's a
Rachel,
lot.
that is very, very, very needed in our community. So well done. Yeah.
Thank you. And I will say, if you do want to like create stuff at home, whatever, I recommend like if you're trying to make something, real images are best. That is number one. So when you're looking at things like an alphabet book, these all have real images. They're not cartoon characters. They're not drawn funky shapes where you need it to be as real as your everyday space as possible.
Mhm.
Um, so you can cut out real images, place them on black construction paper is the easiest way to save some ink.
Yep.
If you want to do that, if you have the skill set and the desire and you want to do all that. And then with lamination, lamination is a big thing. Obviously, people want it because it's more durable. Our kids put a lot of stuff in their mouths. The problem is
The
when you
shine. Yeah.
shiny,
Yeah.
matte.
Yeah.
So if you look at normal lamination is shiny. Matte lamination is 4 times the cost. Why? Don't know, but it is, but it's worth it. So if that's something that you need, all of my books have pages that are um the pages are matte and they all have real images. So you can see and
Yeah.
then like my storybooks, so like what lives in the ocean is a big one. This covers habitats curriculum for pre-k and kindergarten, and they have roman word bubbling for the main animal name at the top and then a fun story to go with it. So there's things like that that you just have to think about. And then with these, what's really fun is that maybe your kid still can't visually access something that still has a background. All the backgrounds are blurred in these storybooks
Yeah.
and the animals and focus. But what we also offer at Little Dandelion Press is stickers that go along with it. Obviously, this is not the right one for this book. Um, but what you can do is you can take the sticker and
Mhm.
peel it off and put it on like a black foam board
Hmm.
and put a little Velcro on it, and then you can use that on their all-in-one board, felt board,
Yeah.
whatever you have,
Yeah.
and you can use that, and so they can visually access the story from there until they can build up to get to the place of the actual book, and
Yeah.
so it's that progression of like, "Hey, how can we use the vision that we have that day?" And maybe there's gonna be days where they can see the book, and maybe there's days that they just need the sticker on the black background, and
Yeah.
that's it. And there's
Yeah.
other days that maybe they just need, to listen to it. And that's why we try to make the stories fun and quick and rhyming and predictive and things like that.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. Do you have like a particular story that you created that has been Moira's favorite or your favorite or something that you guys really loved?
Um, she loves the ocean book personally. Like she really loves it. She thinks it's really fun. It makes her giggle. This is her favorite of my books that she loves. She really loves the alphabet and flashcards just to look at them. She can
Yeah.
visually access those a little bit better. And my alphabet books and the flashcards match each other. So if you're working on letters and you're looking at the book and you say you want to place two flashcards on the other side of them and they have to find the same one from the book, that's a progression of like what you can work on.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the other thing that she really loved last week, we were at Napa and I'm typing on my computer, working as I usually do. I'm in the room with them. And I was like listening, her SLP starts reading a book, and I was like, oh, yeah, I love that book. That's so cute. Wait, that's one of our books. I literally just like had a moment where I forgot it was a book that I actually published and edited. Now,
It's
this is
amazing.
called Five Friendly Ghosts. It is by one of our other authors, Amy Shepard, who started the CVI Book Nook. And it is so cute.
But like, yeah.
And I will say, my daughter was visually attending to this book like I have never seen before. Like I was
Mm,
so at therapy, because therapy can be very distracting in different ways. And she was
yeah.
doing so amazing with that book. And it was just really fun to see um,
Yeah.
her like access it. And every time the SLP like moved it, she was like moving her head. She's like, hey, where are you going with that? I'm looking at it. And that's
Yeah.
really,
I love it. It's like a, yeah, it makes your mama heart happy. I know. I
yes,
love
I was
that.
going to say that.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So we talked a little bit about hard copy type materials and resources. How do you feel and how does Dr. Roman Lansky feel about electronics and our kids with CVI? What's
Well,
the
I
recommendations?
I don't know how she necessarily feels about it. For me, what I do is so Moira used to go to bed between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m. every night. Yeah, that was jarring. So
I'm
it,
problematic.
definitely problematic is an understatement. But what we did is we met some amazing doctors here in Austin who talked about uh, developing a better circadian rhythm for her.
Mhm.
And so with that is bright lights in the eyes within 20 minutes in the morning
I'm gonna
for
say light gazing in the morning. Yes.
yes. So you can do it. You can walk outside, you can go by a window, you can use a screen. So like if it's not light outside, there's not a lot going on and you don't want to walk outside, we do Hey Bear sensory videos in the morning, which is
I remember Hey Bear. Oh my God, y'all! It's been a decade. I love that.
I
Okay.
mean, Hey Bear is amazing. Now there's all kinds of other ones that are similar, but Hey Bear is amazing. It's on YouTube. It's got black backgrounds. It got a lot of dancing fruit and vegetables and fun music. And I'll tell you, when she can't wake up in the morning, you turn that sucker on, her eyes pop open. She's like, "Wait a second, where's my Hey Bear?" So that's one way that we get light in the eyes first thing in the morning, and it's fun to see her visually access it. There
Yeah.
are you can see if she had a really good night rest and she's kind of getting a better visual attention to it, or some days where it's like, oh nope, she's just listening to it, and that's okay too.
Right.
And then for us it's like, I think you use it sparingly, and then also some kids need stuff backlit.
Yeah.
So if you need something backlit, you need that screen for your
Yeah.
child, and
Yeah.
that's okay. Like, we're operating on a different set of rules than
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say. Is like you. There are recommendations and guidelines, but then also we're doing the best we can. Rachel and I had a whole conversation about the last week for her. She's been in the trenches, and yet here she is, bright and shiny and bubbly this morning, doing the best we can. And so, if your kid is watching the screen, okay, like I don't.
Great.
I'm like, okay, that's good. Check out Hey Bear. Like,
Honestly, if I see my kid visually attending to anything, I'm gonna
no,
let him do it.
tough. Yeah, that's who I am. We bring, so Mary Elizabeth loves to go to the movies, and we have been going to the movies almost every week for years now. We go Tuesday movie day and we pick, when there's something we want to see. And what I have been noticing, because I'm in the observation phase with her right now, where she's a teenager, we've got all sorts of changes. I have no idea what's going on. I'm in the learning phase again. And so I spend a lot of time like sitting back and watching her and trying to figure out like what's going on up there, right? And we saw Frankenstein yesterday, and she watched almost the entire movie, like head up, moving back and I mean, like laughing, giggling appropriately. And it's been 3 months since I've seen that, but when she's on her horse, she'll sit up and look
Yeah.
around and is visually attentive. And so it's like I have to figure out like what motivates her. And so for you mamas out there, you have to figure out what motivates your kid. What do they want to look at, right? And sometimes it is the screen.
Yep.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
it's a coloring book. Sometimes it's playing
Yeah.
stickers. Sometimes it's going outside and looking at the sun directly, or, whatever light they're trying to find. But that's one of the things that I'm just not into rules anymore for that. So I'm like, what does she like? How can I motivate her? Okay, here we go. This is what we're using. So I don't know if that's like a tired old mom saying that, or like, I don't know if you get young
Well,
moms that information, but that's how I feel about it. Of like,
I
you
think
got to
it's
figure out what works for you and then utilize that to the best of your capability. Yeah. And
absolutely. Like I said, we're operating under a different set of rules and circumstances. So you do what works for your kid, and if that works for your kid, then do it. You
yeah,
know. The other thing I will say is because some kids need something backlit, we are at Little Dandelion Press. We are working on getting all of our books into ebook form. There
very
are
cool.
some currently available, but we are. That was one thing at the conference. They were like, "Do you guys have it in ebook?" And I'm like, some of them, not all of them yet. So we're working on that.
Very
So
cool.
hopefully we'll have that
Yeah.
out soon.
Okay. All right. Okay, guys. I have one more question, Rachel, and I ask every one of my guests this question. The podcast is called Live Well, Love Strong.
Mhm.
So what are you doing in your life to live well and love strong today, or this past week, or currently?
Well, yeah, this past week, wow. Yeah, Sarah briefly mentioned my daughter was in the ICU for the past week or 4 days, whatever. So I think for me, there's a couple of different things. When the weather is in 1,000 degrees, I'm much like Carol Keefe, who was on recently. I like nature. I want to be outside in nature. She can handle the heat. I can't. So it's usually this time of year, I'm like, yes, finally I can go outside.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing for me is staying connected,
Yeah.
um, and sharing what's going on in your world. So a lot of times, you can get pretty isolated if you let yourself in this community. There are so many people out there, and you can either, talk to one of your medical mom friends or just one of your old school friends that maybe don't have a medical child, and you just want to talk about normal stuff. Like you want to like
I want to hear about all of my friends' kids' real problems. Like, I want to know what y'all are dealing with, because I'm not like I'm dealing with something totally different, and it's such a nice distraction for me. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's nice distraction, but it's also just nice to have human connection that you're not always, kind of dwelling on things that aren't perfect, and
Yeah.
that you're connecting just on a human level with other people regularly. I won't wait for people to like reach out and be like, "Hey, how are you? How's Moira?" I'm like, "Hey, this is what's going on in our world. What's going on in your world?" You know?
Yeah. That's good. That's really, I love that you've learned that only 4 years in, because it's taken me a while to do that. So yeah, I love that.
it's a hard one. In the beginning, I will say the first 2 years, that was rough, and I kept everything to myself.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about it. Nobody really knew. Like, I felt like I needed my own processing time,
Yeah.
and I think that was good to some degree, but then at
Yeah.
one point, I think I went too far, and I was like, "Okay, I need to snap out of it, and I need to start engaging with the world again."
Yeah.
It really stemmed from wanting others to not feel the way that I was feeling in that moment, and wanting to, connect with others who were going through the same thing, and then wanting to just have normal conversations of everyday life of, you
Yeah,
know
because we're still the same people before we had our kiddos. And I think that's the tricky part to this whole game, is like figuring out how to keep that, but then also be a really great caregiver and mom and or, dad to our littles because
That's right.
um and you have, you and your husband with the creativity and the art are doing your area, and I have the psychology background. I'm trying to do my area, but like for us to remember who we were before.
It's funny that you say that, and there are many moments of my life that I have enjoyed, but I will say right now, in the phase that I am, I enjoy this the most, and I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I love, for some reason, CVI connected and
Yeah.
clicked for me immediately, and to see the response that I got at the conference last week from the books that I've created, it honestly just warmed my heart because, like, I, knew being newer to the world, I wasn't sure how things would be received, and, um, I've gone through different careers in my life, but this creative one is the most meaningful. Not only is it helping my child, but it's helping other children. It's helping other parents to not have to create things for themselves and teachers. And that it honestly just warms my heart. And it's literally the best thing that I could be doing right now.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So Rachel is living well and loving strong, you guys, like really, really well. So
Thank you.
okay.
That's sweet of you.
Okay. Well, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think is important for our mamas or our listeners to know?
Um, that it's CVI isn't linear, guys.
Yeah.
So cut yourself a break if you see, like, one day they're doing something and it's going really well, and maybe the next week or so it's like not, and you're like, what happened? And you get frustrated. Don't get frustrated. That's just what
Right.
it is. It's just give yourself some grace, give them some grace, give them some time. Give those vision and brain breaks are really, really, really important. Um,
Yeah, and they're entitled to have a day off, guys. Like
yes,
an off
yes.
day or an off couple of days. Like I have to constantly remind myself for that for Mary Elizabeth. So I always want to say it for the newer mamas because like it's taken me 14 years, but like she can have a bad day. She can have a day where she doesn't want to do it. And I
Yep.
need to honor that, because she's her own person. And I used to like very much be like in therapy mode, like, no, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Go, 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 go. We have a lot of work to do. And now I'm realizing like, no, we don't.
Do that.
Like we have things that we need to work on, but we don't. We can live our life and enjoy each other and it doesn't have to be so serious in that respect. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm available, so if anybody has questions, reach out. I talk to people all the time, so
Yay. Okay. And we're going to put all of Rachel's information in the show notes and then when we post as well. And we have a new program, Rachel, and I'm hoping that you'll sign up. I haven't even talked to you about it yet, but it's called Caregiver Connection, where we match like OG experienced moms with newer moms and they can create a relationship, create connection. We're hoping for friendship. But then also help with some of the things that are challenging for them. And so my heart thinks that you're gonna be matched with a newer mama who's trying to figure out the CVI stuff, and she's gonna be real lucky to have you. So
I feel like it happens often to me at even going to Napa, they're constantly like, Rachel, there's a new one. Can we introduce you? Sure, bring them over. I'll talk to anybody and everybody. Connect me with everybody.
Yeah,
I'm
I
for
love
the
that. That's the beauty of our community, is that I think that we are so willing to help. And it feels good and it gives us some purpose. So I love that.
yeah,
All
absolutely.
right. Well, thank you, Rachel, for coming on. I really appreciate your time. And I just love what you're doing. So give that baby girl hugs and kisses from us. And we will talk to you soon.
Sounds great.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.